The soul is what you are. The soul is not a mythical entity. The soul is a powerful, purposeful essence. It is at the very center of who you are. But do not think that you are the entirety of your soul. A soul is enormous. Your soul existed before you were born, and your soul will exist after you die. I have a certain psychological structure. I have lessons to learn in my life. I have emotions. I have intuition and cognition. I have all of those things. But all of those things will die. But my soul will not, and neither will yours.
To Whom It May Concern is a letter to Anonymous. It's I think Jay-Z said something where the best gift is anonymous to anonymous. And that's what I would think I was doing here. And I actually felt like it was a situation that, for one, To Whom It May Concern is a suicide letter. I just want to get that out the way, because a lot of people don't understand the concept of what I'm talking about in the project. We're talking about depression, we're talking about drug addiction, we're talking about drug abuse, we're talking about womanizing, we're talking about lack of God in your life. We're talking about a few things that will lead you into dark places that you might not want to go. So I named it To Whom It May Concern because I had an idea and I thought, when a person is writing a suicide letter, who are they talking to? So it came to my attention that a person that is writing a suicide letter is really writing the letter to whoever cares. Because they at that point might not feel anybody cares. And it's me addressing the isolation of what depression really does for you. Depression amongst all people, but more specifically black people, is something that is very important and very strong amongst our community, because we don't talk about it. You know, other races of people actually have, you know, they talk about it. Black people don't talk about it. You know, we have a lot of things going on. PTSD, depression, just the mental health in general that we are lacking because we ignore the issues that we do have because we are too afraid to admit that we are weak. We're just too afraid. We are strong, but we're too afraid to admit our weaknesses, I should say that. And so I wanted to make a project that was specifically talking to people that did not want to say the things I said. I wanted to make a project about things that people don't want to talk about. I wanted to talk about drug addiction, politics, mental health. I wanted to talk about suicide. I wanted to talk about the fact that amongst our black community, we do not treat women the way we're supposed to. I wanted to talk about these things. The lack of God in our community. I wanted to talk about these things because we are not having the conversation for it. So I felt like, because you might be too afraid to talk about, I'll say it for you. Because even though you might have not spoke on it, you've definitely thought about it. So with that being said, when I said To Whom It May Concern, what it means is, this is for whoever feels this way. I got your back. I understand. I'll say it. I'll be the sacrificial lamb in the situation. I'll say it. I'll take the burden for it. But it needs to be said. So that's why I made that.
The talk about it when the outcome is like ultimately positive, but when somebody's actually going through it, it just kind of makes people feel like uncomfortable, you know?
Like you said, like, everybody loves a storybook ending, but it's not that all the time. It's more times often than not, depression ends in a horrible way. It's not just suicide. And when I say suicide, a lot of people think suicide, I mean like you're just killing yourself. Suicide is also being self-destructive. Doing things that you know is killing you and you're doing it anyway is self-destructive. That's suicide.
So when you say like you feel like I need to get like back to God, you just like, what exactly do you mean? Because like, yeah, you know, there's you talk about Christianity, I mean, I know you were, like, your parents were Jehovah's Witness. I can leave that out if you want, but, you know, there's also, like, Christians, there's all kinds of, like, definitions of God.
Well,
so what exactly do you mean by, like, God?
My belief of God, right? So I believe God is energy. I don't believe of this actual, like, figure. I think that's something that man created so that we can fathom what God is. But what I do believe is God is energy. I believe that when you do something right, when you're doing something righteous, when you're doing something that you know from the bottom of your heart is the right thing to do, I believe you are filled with God's energy. When you're doing something the opposite, then very vindictive, very spiteful, very filled with hatred, I feel like you are at your most devilish point. You're at your lowest point. You are willing to do that for your own personal reasons. But if you do something positive that you know is 100% positive, and you know, and you have a firm belief that what you're doing is gonna help somebody, and you're doing it without any ulterior motive for whatever reason that you might think, I believe that you are at your most godly point. So when I said I was running too far from God, what I meant was I was doing things that in my mind, in my conscience, I knew I should not have been doing, but I was doing them out of a personal gain. I needed money, I needed this, I needed that. But at the end of the day, my conscience is worth more than that money. So if I have to go without that money in order for my spirit to be free and my spirit to be clean and not have to turn my neck every 2 seconds because I'm worried about something coming back on me, that's worth more than whatever I'll get from doing bad to people. So that's what I meant when I said I got too far from God. I wasn't actually speaking of a religious standpoint, because I believe God has no religion. There is no religion. If you believe in God, there can't be a religion. That's just me. Now, I'm not forcing that on anybody else. God has no religion. God's word is God's word. Religion is man-made. Religion is made by men who felt like we needed to understand and explain to other people what God said instead of just taking what God said and just living by it. That's just me. But I will believe that God is in my energy. God is in my soul. God is in my everyday feeling. When I get up, I feel God. Because I woke up. I feel like I need to do something. And having positive energy around you, you start to see a lot of different things that you have not seen before. You start noticing things that were always there that you have not noticed. And you start realizing that how beautiful life really is, versus saying, you know what, somebody told me a long time ago, instead of saying I have to go to work, say I get to go to work. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's the way you look at things, that's God and the devil. Pessimism and optimism is God and the devil. Especially amongst the black community, because we always feel like we have to be above or ahead of the next person so that we don't feel as bad about ourselves. I'm doing better than that person, so I can't feel that bad. Like, you know what I'm saying? Or when they tell you shit like, your situation's not that bad because somebody has it worse. It's like, what the fuck does that mean? Like,
yeah, struggle is perspective.
Yeah, it's like somebody has it worse. Like, what? Like, somebody would love to be in your position. That's not how you deal with that. Like, it's not. You don't tell somebody you shouldn't be upset with your problem because somebody else has another problem. I feel bad for both of us now. I have a problem and you have one too. Why do we have this problem? That's the thing that needs to be addressed. And the issue with that being said is people don't want to talk about it because people are afraid to admit that they're human. The thing that this person feels broken. You have these emotions. Nobody wants to feel emotion amongst black people. We feel like that's a sign of weakness. We feel like it's being something that's less than what we portray is a sign of weakness. In all actuality, that's when you're at your most strong, because you admit to yourself that something needs to be fixed, and that's the only time you can fix it. So if you don't actually acknowledge or accept the fact that you need help and you are a broken person and you need to be fixed, then you will forever be broken. Like you said, feeling broke is worse than being broke. So if you don't ever get to the point where you were talking about money, but the thing of the matter is, it's a real thing. Like when you're actually physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally broken, if you don't address that, it's gonna haunt you. It's gonna be on your back until you fix it. Until you deal with that problem, you're gonna always have that problem. You can run as far as you want from life. That problem will always be back there to look you dead in your face when you turn around. It will always be there. You gotta fix that problem. And the first thing you have to do is you have to acknowledge that you have the problem.
Especially if you don't get out.
Especially if you don't get out. In our community, you know, the bravado is it's just one of those things that we just have a sense of pride, to the foolish pride as well, where we just can't let our guard down because we just feel like if we do, we're gonna be a victim. So we learn at a young age that if you are not a shark, you will be treated like a guppy. You will get eaten. You know what I'm saying? You will get eaten because you're not strong enough to survive. So we always have to walk around with the tough shield up because we're too afraid to be ourselves.
It sounds like this is like a bit of a therapy for you as it is for anyone who feels any sort of way towards this, if it touches them or it doesn't, or they can relate to it or not.
Yeah.
I feel like, so since it's like kind of like therapy for you, like you were saying, and it seems like at a certain point you identified the problems that you had and you made that self-reflective moment and you made a conscious decision to do better. And so like what kind of state were you in when you came to that conclusion?
I was more relieved than anything. I was relieved because I felt like I started to figure it out. You know what I mean? Like I had went through my entire life trying to figure things out about myself that I just couldn't. You know, I didn't understand why I was who I am and why I think things the way I think them, or why I was going through a lot of the things I was going through. And you know, it was one of those things where it kind of just gave me this idea that I was making like headway in my life. Like, okay, well, maybe this is a start. So yeah, when you said therapy, music is therapy for me. It's the way I cope. It's the way I deal with the world. It's my outlet. It's my personal ray of sunshine. You know what I mean? It's my thing. It's something that nobody can take from me. It's my art. It's everything to me. And by the time I got done the project, I just felt like a great weight was lifted off of me by being as honest as I was in the project. Because I don't think in any music I have ever done have I ever been that honest, to the point where I made sure every single line was very, very truthful about myself and about how I look at things. So I don't know. I think by the time I got done with the project, I just felt like, thank you. You know what I mean? I thanked God that I was able to do this with so much conviction and so much persistence. Because before, I had worked on different projects, and I always would get, anybody that knows me that knows how I deal with music, I will start working on a project, get 8-9 songs in, and I'll just scrap it. Which is why, if you look at my hard drive at my studio, I have over 500 recorded songs and people have only probably heard 20 of them. And because I'll get halfway into a project and then something that happened in my life where I just get a different idea. Or I'll just be like, nah, I'm not really feeling that idea anymore. And those songs will just sit there. This was the first time in a long time where I was like, I'm working on this project and nothing stopped me from working on the project. So I just took that as a sign, like, thank you. I needed to get that off my chest. So.
Fuck the world, nay, they ain't doing it. I want to talk to God, but the devil keep calling. I'm losing my mind.
For those who don't know, purgatory is a place where in Christianity where people that are indecisive about people who aren't that good but aren't that bad go to before they get chosen to go between hell and heaven. That's like a waiting room where you're judged based on your actions. When you weren't that good and weren't that bad, this is the place you go to wait out your judgment, right? So I felt like most people were walking that thin line between you're not that good but you're not that great. Nobody's an angel, but you also not maybe not be a demon. So that's what purgatory is. My purgatory, or my metaphor for that, was the me deciding or realizing it was something wrong with my life. That was my purgatory. My purgatory was me realizing something's wrong. And at this point in time, me realizing something's wrong, I could either keep doing wrong or do better. And that was my purgatory. It was like a fork in the road. So what happened was the way I wrote that song was the way I actually started writing the project. The first song I wrote in this project was Purgatory. And that's how the rest of the project came to be. I woke up in the middle of the night after having a dream where I was being chased. And I kept having this reoccurring dream over and over. I would just be getting chased, and I would be running and didn't know where I was running from. Until I got to the point where I realized I was actually running from God. And that realization in my dream that I was running from God scared me so much that I woke up. Because I'm a logical person, and I couldn't understand, why would I be running from God? I don't understand. I didn't get it. So it scared me. And if you're running from God, that means you're running away from God. To go where? And that's my logic. My question was, to go where? And it terrified me. And I woke up immediately. And the only thing I could think of was writing everything I was just dreaming about down. And as I started writing, I could only think of nonstop, like, why was I running from God? What was the reason I was running from God? And I was trying to figure out these answers, and I couldn't think of it. So as I kept writing this project, it became a little bit more clear to me why. With every song that I wrote, I think I wrote 14 songs for this project, and I ended up keeping 11 of them. Like, that's how decisive I was about it. I was very decisive. It was very precise. It was every idea I had was like another piece to why I felt this way. And it ended up me coming to the conclusion that the reason I felt that way is because I had went through so much shit in my life that it was getting to the point where I was believing that there was no God. I was getting to the point where I was thinking, like, God can't care about me. There's no way, because I was doing all of this and doing all of that. Now, a lot of it was me, putting that stuff on myself. But nonetheless, this is the things I was dealing with. So with that being said, I think purgatory was just the thing that made me go, I need to figure things out. And once I did that, I ended up getting to the end of the project, which is like my rejoiceful moment that I got it. I get it. I finally get it. So that's what that was about.
Ain't no Messiah gonna save me. I clip this hammer off safety. My hands shaking like. You think I'm nervous? I contemplate suicide, dog. It's nothing I can take your life. I wonder if
On the Edge, I feel like it's a pivotal moment of the project. It's the turning point. Because prior to On the Edge, it was a bunch of songs that might have been very positive, very uplifting, with the exception of maybe Broken in the intro. Up until that point, it was very mellow. It was a build-up of everything. Once I got to On the Edge was the feeling of completely losing your mind. It was the feeling. It was the feeling of just. It was the realization that you are losing it. You're losing it. You're losing your mind. That's what it was. It was the feeling that I'm on the edge because I've been telling myself non-stop that things are gonna be okay, things are gonna be okay, things are gonna be okay. And when you're dealing with depression, sometimes things just aren't going to be okay. You can tell yourself that a lot, but sometimes it's not gonna happen like that, and you have to be able to deal with it. You have to be able to cope with it. You have to be able to find your peace within that chaos. But when you're going through it, it's the hardest thing to deal with and the hardest thing to understand that it will be okay. Because sometimes, like I said, it won't. So On the Edge was me after telling myself so long and people telling me so long while I was going through what I was going through, just, it's going to be all right. It's going to be okay. That was me finally realizing, no, it's not. And I need to vent. So On the Edge was probably, On the Edge and They Forgot is probably my most venting songs, because those are the feelings I was having.
Yeah, they're definitely the most aggressive songs.
Mm-hmm. With like maybe Purgatory at the end.
Yeah, at the end.
But They Forgot and On the Edge, I wanted it to be like almost angry. I wrote On the Edge for that reason. I wanted to find when a project like this. And
what part of your life did you pull that from? Like mentally, like were you talking about certain points?
Yeah. I remember I pulled that from a series of events that happened in my life that led me to the point where I was in my living room on my knees crying, just staring at the ceiling. And I was just crying, and it was a lot. I was losing sleep. I was drinking way too much, dealing with so many wrong people, and one day I just broke down. One day I literally just broke down. I had a mental breakdown, and I couldn't move. And I sat in my living room floor on my knees crying. That's what that was. Because I couldn't hold up the tough guy act no more. You know what I mean? I couldn't hold up this macho feel that I got everything under control. I didn't. And I just broke down. I broke down. At one point in time in my life, when I was younger, I was driving a BMW to work. I was 19 years old with a 2-bedroom house that I owned. 19. You know what I mean? So I was driving to work in a BMW. I was wearing a suit and tie to work. You understand? And within a year, I was within a year, I ended up losing all of that, and I actually, the pride in me forced me to want to be homeless, because I didn't want to go back to my mom's house, and that didn't last for too long. I said I couldn't do it. It was too cold, man. I just had to go in the house, and I went to my mom and I broke down again, and ever since then it was just like I just felt like I was in a downward spiral of just emotions and feelings. So we're talking about like a 5-6 year period, 5-6-7 year period, that it was just whatever could go wrong went wrong. Nothing went right for like 5-6-7 years straight, and yeah, that's where those feelings came from. It was just the frustration, the emotion, the anger of myself mostly, because I felt like at one point in time I had it together. I was good. I got it, and it just went away. So, that's where that came from. And then when the song "They Forgot" is right after that, because that's the feeling of abandonment, when you feel like you're literally all alone by yourself. That's what that is.
Know this chick named Ashley, nice frame and she classy, educated, good job, nice car, but sadly she depressed, cause men only want her around for sex, and it feels nobody's there for her since her mama death, so she cries a lot, but got a daughter to raise up, so she hides a lot. Her baby father don't care and he lies a lot, say he coming with some cash but won't take care of his seed if she ain't giving up no ass, so she blame herself.
Song Perfect is so the general theme of the whole project is, well, the first half of the project is a bunch of affirmations. I fucked that whole word up. Affirmations. It's things that I would tell myself often. Like when I say, I don't need you to fix me, I need you to ride with me while I fix myself. Or I would say, you know, I love myself, shit like that. Or I would tell myself that because these are the things I was told to tell myself in order to get past depression. Remind myself that I love myself and things like that. Or like when I said, like in wrong number, it was like positive. That was the next step, to eliminate all the negativity from you, or from around you. All negative sources have to stay away from you. This is how you get through. This is how you get through depression. Or then when I got the BlackBerry, the next step was, you know, find a beautiful woman and let her be your rock. And these were all things I was told when I was going through depression, as much as I was then. Until I got, like I said, with Perfect, that was me saying, or reminding myself that I love myself, and if I love myself, I shouldn't allow myself to go through certain things, or I shouldn't let myself go too far from, on my square, I should say. So, that's the first part of Perfect, was me just kind of self-affirmation, like, yo, you'll be okay. The next part was, like the next two verses were actually true stories about people that I actually know. A girl I knew went through a lot of things in her life, you know. Mom had passed away. She had a daughter that she was raising by herself because the person she was with kind of bailed on her. So she went through a situation where she felt like she was blaming herself because of these things. So she self-loathed herself so much that she was willing to change everything about herself in order to get loved, or some kind of outside source of love, but because she didn't realize that she herself hated. She had self-hatred within her. She didn't realize that. So with that being said, I made it so that I wanted to tell her story in a way that was tasteful and truthful.
I never really did believe in heaven until my grandma passed. So I asked myself, where else will she go? It's helping me though to be a lot stronger than I was before. Until it's time.
Use that as the closing song.
Well, I just thought Fly was the perfect contrast to Broken, the way it started. Because Broken was more of a, if you notice, Fly and Broken are saying the same thing. It's just that now I'm looking at it from two different perspectives. So, when I said broken, you can take that as a wave versus broken, like broken spirit, something that can't be fixed, or whatever the case may be, something broken or needs fixing. And then the last song being Fly, right? So there's a lot of things I put in the project that I kind of want people to catch on to themselves. But this is one thing I'm willing to give away. The reason that the last song is called Fly and the first song on the project is me. That's me singing. I mean, me rapping. And it's called Broken because the first original song on there is the intro. But I'm not on the intro. But the reason that the last song is called Fly and the second song where I'm actually rapping is called Broken I'm talking about a fallen angel, broken like wings. In the beginning, I'm broken, and now I'm saying that at the end of the project, now I can fly because I have fixed my wings. I fixed them. I figured out a way how to fix them. That's what the whole concept of Fly and Broken was. So Fly was supposed to be the complete contrast to Broken. Broken being a song where I was like very down on my luck. I was in the dumps with myself. I was like really like at the peak of my depression, just kind of saying that I can't help, like I can't fix myself. I don't know what's going on with me. Nothing's gonna work. Nothing's gonna work right. Fly is me saying everything is gonna work right because I went through the worst and I've made it. I've went through my worst and I survived it. There's nothing left for me to do but fly, which is my definition of flying is just to exceed my expectations, to get everything out of my life that I'm supposed to get out of it. Because I finally broke the shackles that were holding me, which was my mental depression, and everything that was holding me back was myself. And I finally got out of my own way. And, you know, it felt good. So I wanted to make it a song that was very positive. After, you know, all this darkness that you just heard through the project, I wanted it to be an upbeat, positive song, but I still wanted to talk about real things. Like in the first verse, I'm talking about my own, my situation. You know, why I'm saying I need to be able to fly because of the things I went through. In fact, not that I should be able to. I feel like there's no other way now. That the only thing I can do now is fly. That's it. I've broken my shackles, and I feel like if I take that leap of faith, I'm never gonna hit the ground because I have the faith that I'm gonna fly. The wind is gonna get under my wings, and I'm gonna fly. The second verse is talking about materialism and how when I was a young kid, I felt like having those things and having nice things made me, you know, who I was, and that's not actually the case. When I was young, you couldn't tell me that. When I was young, that's exactly what I thought it was. I thought it was the thing that made me because in American society, there's so much capitalism that we feel like if you don't have money, you're nothing, and that's not true. And we should stop pushing that narrative because now you got adults always talking about if you ain't got money, you ain't this. If you ain't, it's like let's stop doing that. My end all be all, my goal is to see this project create a conversation amongst not just black people, but just people as a whole to be able to have a conversation where they're open and honest about needing help and so that other people don't always feel alone. You know what I mean? Because if you share your hardships with other people, if you share some of your tribulations with other people and your trials, um, it will make it a lot easier for the healing process to begin. And I guess what I'm trying to get out of this project is I'm trying to get to a point where more people are willing to be honest, completely honest about the things they go through. It's just at a point in music right now, I just feel like there's no substance really. And I think that's due to people not knowing that it is you're allowed to be truthful. You know, I was in the studio one day. It was a kid, um, nice kid, and young guy. He was a rapper, and he was rapping. And I know his mom, know his people he's around. Good kid, smart kid, went to high school, but all his raps were like super hard and all this lifestyle that he I knew he wasn't living for a fact. And I asked him why are you doing that? And he was saying that what else can I talk about? And I kind of felt at that point in time, I couldn't be mad at him. I felt like I failed him, even though I didn't. It wasn't technically my fault. It was just my generation. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to add like a domino effect to where um, if we take one step
it's gonna keep building up and getting to the next step to where I help you, you help them, they help, etc., so forth. Because this conversation is a conversation that needs to be had, and we need to think about our future. We need to think about tomorrow and not just today. So I feel like if I take the brunt, or if I take the first step, somebody else will take the next step, and so on and so forth. But we do, for our sake of our future as humans on this planet, we need to start being honest with each other, and that's how we will heal. Because at that point in time, we will realize just how much more in common we actually have. So that's it. Yay!
Yo, what's up? My name's Don Cash. For Philly, I'm an independent artist. I got a project out right now called To Whom It May Concern. You should check it out.
Never claim to be perfect. I know I'm tainted, but worth it for certain. Give you the earth if you deserve it. I'm kinda lost. These kind of thoughts I'm having just shouldn't happen when you're this age and still old enough to be in that 6th stage. You know that bullshit phase that I should have it all by now. Bills coming, they want it all right now, and I'ma step away from jumping off the ledge. Trying to balance my dreams and reality's a challenge. Trying to turn the projects to a palace and my bitch into my queen. My niggas the CEOs like no devil in between. Fantasizing about dollars, that's when real life intervenes.